You'll see them everywhere. That's what actually Jamie and I are calling the eclipse effect. We've coined that phrase. We'd love for lots of people to use that phrase. And it's the recognition of some external catalyst. It could be a gift from the universe, like an eclipse, or it could be a disaster, or it could be a man-made good thing or bad thing, like the Olympics coming to your town, or somebody suddenly pulling your funding on the federal level and now you have to manage. But something with its own energy causes a group of people to recognize that they can leverage, or they should leverage the energy of that to pull people together. And if you then manage that properly, then that network can last beyond the original catalyst. And that's what we're calling the eclipse effect. It happens all over, but most visibly with this eclipse, and you can make it happen.
Let's repeat the Non-Conformist oath. I promise to be different. I promise to be unique. I promise not to repeat things other people say.
And welcome back to Positive Blatherings. And this is a follow-up, sort of episode. Deborah Ross from kidsoutandabout.com, Beyond the Nest, and what is the main...
the umbrella is kind of entertainment calendar.
Yeah. Anyway, great friend of mine. One of the primary reasons why this studio exists here.
True.
Right?
I feel very proud of that. I feel a little bit of ownership over that.
You do. This is always a home for you.
Thank you.
And co-author of The Eclipse Effect. And of course, you remember when the eclipse made its interesting appearance here in Rochester.
Yes.
You came through and just like transformed this community into get ready for the eclipse. It was so awesome to see you mobilize and do all that stuff. So I'm so happy to have you back here. It's been a long time. How you been?
I've been great. It's been almost 2 years since the 2024 eclipse, which is 2024. Yeah. Incredible to me, right? So April 8th of 2024. So at this time 2 years ago, life was absolutely frantic because this was a moment in history for the Rochester area, but also for everybody both in the path, so up from Mexico, Texas, all the way through the center of the country and up through us. And it was a moment for even everybody in the country experienced a partial eclipse at least. And so the astronomers were the main spearheaders for years and years of visibility and sort of leveraging the momentum and the opportunity of both the 2017 Great North American Eclipse and 2024, because there hadn't really been a major eclipse since 1993 here. And then before that, 1979. So we were blessed with two major eclipses within 7 years, and then there won't be another one until 2045. So there's a little minor one in northern Alaska in 2033, I think.
Up there,
yeah, in March in Fairbanks.
I'm not there.
Yeah, but so the leveraging of that moment, we started right after. Or I kind of started after I experienced the 2017 eclipse with my daughter Ella in Missouri. The story actually starts in 2012 when she came out of an astronomy class in middle school at the Strasbourg Planetarium and said, "Mom, in 5 years, I'm going to be 16 and you and I are going to take a road trip to Missouri." And I said,
I love that. She already had it planned.
She had it right from that very first class in the Strasbourg Planetarium. And I said, that's lovely, dear. Because what kid plans for something in 5 years? She said, well, I'll have my license. I'll do the driving. I was like, great, even better. And of course, I was like, she's going to forget about that. But of course, that was because there was going to be the Great North American Eclipse, August 21st of 2017, and she was planning for it. And so we did go, but I was a skeptic right up until the very first moment when we have our glasses on and the moon. We had a beautiful, gloriously sunny day in Kimmswick, Missouri in 2017. And when you see the moon just start to cover the sun, all of a sudden, I understood what the fuss was all about, right? I had already, I know what a shadow is. It gets dark every night. What's the big deal? Right. But I wanted to go on this science trip with my teenager, right? Yeah. So you always want to, leverage those things. But all of a sudden, I could feel the solar system with my whole body. I could feel the sun and the moon and the earth and me. And that was all I was really aware of. You could feel these bodies hanging in space. And I came out of that moment really transformed because, of course, I knew that it was going to be happening through our area in just 7 short years. And so said, we got to get ready for this. And I figured, well, I guess it's me who's going to be, pushing everybody to do this. And because of the whole Kids Out and About thing, I know many, many, many people here who make things happen. And so I figure, okay, well, it's time for me to put all of those principles into practice. This is actually, June will be our 25th anniversary of starting Kids Out and About.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so I've had this close-up view of communities, and I've been deeply interested in them for a quarter century. I see how healthy communities work. I see how unhealthy communities work. I see what makes them form and dissolve. And so I've had these sort of principles swimming around in my head for all that time. I put them into practice in my own business and then in some of my own community organizing work here in Rochester on boards and things. And but this was sort of putting it to the test. And how could I gather? And here's the key. When you want to make something happen that's going to elevate lots and lots of people, that's going to affect them, that's going to lift them up. And you need to bring in as many people as you can, as many different sorts of people, people who wouldn't normally work together or know each other from different backgrounds and skills and resources and networks of their own. So how to bring them all together for something for no money, remember, because this is a group that didn't ever legally exist for all these years, right? This is just people coming together to make something happen. And how to get them to focus on something that was going to happen far in the future for 3 minutes and 38 seconds. That was the challenge.
It's interesting when you put it that way, because it doesn't last a whole long time. Now, when you were in Missouri, now at that point, I seem to recall you coming back from that, and you had already made a contact with the museum there. Didn't you?
Yes.
And you had already were talking to them
very
about.
Good. No, yeah. So here's the connection. This is so wherever I travel, and I do a fair amount of traveling, I always go to the Science Museum first. I was on the board of our RMSC at the time. And so we landed the day before in St. Louis and, of course, went to the Science Center where they were celebrating the heck out of the eclipse the next day. And the planetarium director, when I was talking to her, said, "Oh, you have to meet this person. She has just brought 2 busloads of people down from Milwaukee. And we're doing a special planetarium show, and she's originally from Rochester. You need to meet her." And so I said, absolutely, of course. And it turned out to be Hillary Olsen, who won, and we became friends that day.
Right.
And 1 year later, there I am on the RMSC board, and the resume of Hillary Olsen lands on my desk because she's up for the CEO position of the RMSC. And look, I know this person. I met her last year. And so, yeah, we met over the eclipse, the first eclipse. And then, so I was already on that board and knew that because the RMSC is kind of the center of informal science learning here, that's the organization people turn to. They were the natural centers of gravity here for the eclipse, and they really stepped up. And of course, Hillary was already a huge convert to this, having had the same experience in 2017. So I didn't have to do any convincing of anybody at the RMSC that this was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to do any convincing of the Visit Rochester either, our tourism bureau. They already knew it was a big deal. And of course, as it happened, I was the incoming chair of the Visitor Industry Council. So in 2018, immediately after the eclipse, I was already organizing there. So I opened every one of those 2018 monthly meetings with, what's happening on April 8th of 2024? Yeah. Total solar eclipse. Yeah.
I remember the countdown, and it was like,
of course,
2 years.
And everybody, especially in 2017, 18, 19, thought we were crazy. But the thing is, when you're trying to organize for a purpose, it's not a binary thing.
Yeah.
Leadership doesn't consist of, we're all working really, really hard, and someday at the end of the road, we'll know whether we succeeded or not. It can't be that way, because then if you frame it that way for you, and in that all or nothing way, it's not going to work. What you need to think about is how you define success, how you define putting value into the world. And so for me, I'm this weird endless optimizer, right? So how do I spend the next 5 precious minutes I have on Earth? How do I optimize that? How do I push maximum amount of value into the world? This is why you like having me on this podcast, right? Because this is right. So that's always my orientation, and this is your at least implicit philosophy in putting a spotlight on people who do that.
Right.
So I love being here, and I love that you do this. But as you're trying to work to some effect, you need to look at the value you're putting into the world moment by moment. And what real leadership is it consists of the attraction of lots of different people who feel similarly as you, but recognizing that they have their own purpose in working with you. It's like if you're trying to get lots of people to work with you for free for many years for something that for no money, right? What you need to do is tap into why they want to be there.
Motivation.
Right. Yeah. Because it's not your motivation.
Yeah.
It can't be. You are you. They are them. And so what a leader does is looks really carefully at what makes that person and what makes them want to participate. What that will do is help and make them feel visible, because this effort, the coming together, the working hard, has to be valuable in and of itself if you're going to have any chance of success at this. But that value is success, right? You're feeling that as you're going along. So every single one of those, at first in person and then Zoom once the pandemic hit, right? And then back to in person and Zoom hybrid meetings, let us attract ultimately to Rochester's Eclipse Task Force 750 people, of which there were 174 active members. And that was unprecedented. As I started becoming involved nationally on the National Eclipse Task Force from the American Astronomical Society in 2019. And by the time 2022 came around and we had one of their meetings here in Rochester, they realized, oh, look at those Rochester people. And they asked me to co-chair the National Task Force so that I could help other communities around the country, people that they weren't tapped into necessarily because they're more science people than community and government and organizing people. Can I help show those communities, show them what Rochester's done and help them learn from what we've done to inspire them really to pull their communities together. And what that did is it gave me this front row seat to all of these different initiatives from across all kinds of disciplines in education and tourism and government and transportation and education and informal education, how people were doing it their way. And they were sort of living out principles that had already been sort of swimming around in my head for a long time as I'd been watching all kinds of communities through all the Kids Out and About stuff. And so many stories came out of that after the eclipse, my co-author, so Jamie Carter, who is a writer for Forbes.com, Space.com, Sky and Telescope, he's a science writer. I got to know him as I fed him stories from all over the country because he writes about eclipses also, among other things. We realized we liked working together, and we realized that these stories hung together in such a way that they'd be valuable way outside of eclipse organizing. But the stories are really interesting to read. So you're reading, so I loved it. I did like the principles, the logical layout of it, like what we wanted to say, what the strategies were and the principles. And Jamie's stories hang on all of those things. And so my kids, who, they like structure too, but they're like, oh, no, Mom, you read this for the stories. You don't read this for the principles or the strategies, but they come out. You'll see them. And so, I realize I'm monologuing here, sort of, Scott, but we live in this time where we feel, even I do, this dreadful lack of agency. A sense that the important stuff happens way up there in the upper echelons and that we are just subject to it, almost like laws of nature.
Right.
And it is really depressing, right? But compounding that depression is the sense that you can't do anything to put value into the world to make an actual difference. And that's actually not really true. But people don't know how to do it. People think I'm not a leader. And you may not be as painfully cheerful as I am, because who is? It's really true. Like, people ask my kids, is your mother really like that? They're like, oh yeah.
She's exhausted.
That is exactly what they say. Very useful though when you're in front of a group of people who are you're trying to get enthusiastic about something. But leadership is not this sort of, I have a vision, follow me, and then you turn around like the Pied Piper and hope that the rats and the kids follow you.
Right.
That's not like that. Leadership in this case is actually a very quiet, hard work to glue people together. It doesn't have to be visible. So the strategies for doing that, we give examples in the book. We also outline that. It is an anti-authoritarian style of leadership. It is a servant style of leadership, which is that you're creating the tools and the environment, an ecosystem in which lots of different people want to come together and have experiences of working together, and each bringing their own talents and their own work and their own time and their own energy and their own backgrounds and networks in the pursuit of a goal that you all share. And it's not like a single goal. It's part of the goal is the community, but it's a community lifting each other up and celebrating successes along the way.
Now, how did that style of servant leadership come about for this particular project? Is this something that you've always kind of subscribed to and always been a part of, or did it?
No, it is. Yeah, so essentially, I mean, it was a little handy. I've had these principles for a long time. I tried them out in my own business. My business is not a thou shalt do this or I shall not give you a paycheck kind of business, as you can imagine, right? I'm not my style. It is not, you must do this or else, ever. It is I'm so fortunate to work with you people. Yeah. How do I get you to want to put your energy to work in this goal that we all have, right? And so I have a lot of principles around that. And they're not mine necessarily, right? One of them, I use strategies from a guy named Robert Putnam, who in the year 2000 wrote a book called Bowling Alone. He's a sociologist at Harvard. And he has a theory of social capital, which like the sort of the value of the bond between people. Okay, that's really useful in thinking about forming communities. And so there are two kinds of social capital in Putnam's view: bonding social capital and bridging social capital. So bonding social capital is the kind of pulling together almost organically of people because they recognize something about each other that's like the same, that bonds them together. So that could be a religious group. It could be a family. It could be, the fact that you love the rock band Rush. Right. And so if you meet another Rush fan, there is, or at least for me, there's an instant bond. Yep. And like Rush fans, as I should know, because I've been in that ecosystem a while, all different kinds of people, right?
Everybody knows you when it comes to Rush fans.
Yeah. So, because I'm a dork about that. Yes.
There are worse things to be a dork about.
No, I totally agree. And they're going on tour later this year. They had this amazing drummer named Annika Niles.
She's amazing.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to Madison Square Garden August 3rd. Anyway.
Nice.
But when you recognize, you see that like you and I even have this, we have bonds all over the place, but like we have that, right?
Yeah.
That's bonding social capital. And it happens like naturally. You don't have to put any effort into it. Bridging social capital is something that's actually very deliberately constructed, and it's hard work. It is the connection on purpose of one person to another, usually by a third person. Now, that's not Putnam's definition. That's my example of his concept. So bridging social capital is the construction of reasons to be together. And so when I connect you to somebody else, because I have a reason to do that, I'm building a bridge between the two of you. I'm creating, just by force of will and some energy and emailing, a bond, a bridging social capital. You may be completely different from each other, except that I've just built that bridge. And in my concept, and what I say in the book too, that is a gift. to those two people. You never know what kind of value it's going to bring. In fact, you're doing this endlessly as a leader. And that is what I call it, the hard work, the hard, quiet work of leadership. You're endlessly giving visibility to the people that you're hoping to attract or that you have attracted to work on something with you, validating their reasons for being in this, and then augmenting their value and in the world by connecting them with somebody else whom they might get value from each other. And so that gift that you've just given those two people, downstream, you'll have no idea how that's used, how what kind of value that. But you own that in a certain psychological way. It's invisible. You can't see it. But it is no less real for being invisible. Doing this over and over and over again gives you a superpower, and the power of actually putting good things into the world. And so leadership can be really dispiriting if you don't see the effect of what you're doing. And so part of what this book states is it reminds you that that stuff is true, that it's real, that you made it. And if you know that, it really helps you do the next one and the next one and the next one, because you can then imagine the tangible things happening down the road. And you've caused that. Mm-hmm. And so that's a little esoteric, but I think it's fairly concrete, right? And so doing that over and over. If you turn to sort of one of the last pages of the book, here, actually give it to me because I'm gonna open it and show it to you. I actually, after the eclipse, in May of 2024, I did a survey of the Rochester task force, and that last page shows the new connections in our community. People who didn't know each other before. You just covered it up.
No, I know. I got to put my glasses on.
People who didn't know each other before, but now do as a result of having worked on lifting up our community for the eclipse. And that, though,
I know half of these, more than half of these.
Yes, people. So some of them, like the major ones who were like little nexuses and have lots of connections, their names popped out in the analysis, because I wanted to make that visible for everybody. And almost everybody who sees it smiles just like you're smiling, because that didn't exist.
Yeah.
But those people continue to work together. Many of them 2 years down the road, when you connect people who are making a difference in the world to each other, the downstream of that is amazing. And so if I ever, feel down, all I have to do is open to that page 100 and whatever in the book, 200 and whatever, to see that thing and say, yep, I helped with that. And it's not that much effort considering all the value that goes into the world subsequently, right? So
I'm interested in how you came up with this graph, this design.
So I sweet-talked a professor of graph theory at Macalester University in Minnesota.
Because you, first of all, know that that's a thing, and second of all, know who.
So I'll tell you why. So his name is Andrew Beveridge, and he runs a website called Network of Thrones. He is a graph theorist, and what he's done on Network of Thrones is he has graphed in this really illustrative way all the different books of Game of Thrones and all of the wacky connections between all of the different characters in Game of Thrones. And so you can see this on the Network of Thrones website.
Where does someone find the time?
I know. Well,
that?
I think he can call it his work, right? Isn't that neat? And so he, when I saw that, I said, oh, this is the guy. And so I had already done the survey, and I said, what program did you use to put together these great graphs? And he told me, and it was a program that was clearly written by professors for professors. And so I said, can I just talk to you about this? And so I talked to him about it. And he's like, all right, listen, just hand me the data. And he made that for me. So he is absolutely credited in that book.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But he used the examples in his class then after. I said, yes, of course you can use the data for your class.
Right. Man, I love this because this is like my everyday.
Right.
Since starting Rockvox, and I mean, you were there at the beginning of this whole process. And from that day on, I mean, even if I go back to when I first moved back to Rochester in 2007 and worked at J Advertising, all the people that I met there, and a lot of those names would be the bigger ones here because then they're the start of all these little different connections. And it still happens today. We're still doing that, where people are like, hey, I need to put you two together, and I need to put you two together. And it's just a great it's wonderful when you see the fruits of that labor. And I know you said sometimes you don't see it. But I guess you're right. Knowing that it's there, knowing that you've done that is something to keep in mind. It's a very good reminder.
Yeah. You've done that, right? And so a lot of the people who are listening are people who do that. One of the things about people who get things done is that they tend to jump on to the next thing without really reveling in what they've done just a moment ago. And it was really easy for that with the eclipse, right? The eclipse lasted on average 3 minutes and 38 seconds in the Rochester area, different in different places. And then the people who do were mostly on to the next thing. And then it was in the past, and there was not that many reminders of it, although I continually, made concrete reminders, right, of things like mugs and bears and hats and magnets and artwork, because art is permanent. Art is eternal. I envy artists who are immortal because they create things very handsome. They create things that last beyond what the moment. And so I've always envied artists.
It's actually a nice hat.
Thank you.
Hats don't usually do well.
See?
When people give me hats, it's like, this one's good. I like it.
Good. What I wanted to do in part with this book is not really for people who manage the eclipse or do eclipses.
Right. And so
this is a book way beyond that. But I did want to write it almost as a gift to everybody across the country who had done this, because I wanted them to have this permanent reminder of their story. And so each of the chapters starts off with a story. And then there's you have the characters from all over the country. From Rochester, of course, it's Dan Schneiderman and also Rachel Labor-Polvino from Visit Rochester. So Dan Schneiderman from the RMSC and Rachel from Visit Rochester.
And is this from the artist that you've been?
It is. That's correct. So Tyler Nordgren, who is the world's foremost eclipse artist, who did lots of our eclipse art, who has the art on that mug that we got the publisher to get Tyler to do the cover art for the Eclipse Effect. Yeah, it was great. So, I mean, some people have bought it just because they're Tyler Nordgren fans, which, more power to them. Yeah. I would love it if they read the book. But it's really meant for people way beyond eclipses who are trying to make something happen and need to work with others. And this is literal strategies for doing that. So even like strategies for running good meetings, ideas. Well, and so coping with disappointment, coping with failure, how to reframe success as not an all or nothing thing, right? If Rochester had framed all of this work, that success would be that millions of people were in Rochester to experience a glorious sunny day eclipse. If that was our framing of success, well, we would have failed.
Right. That wasn't, though.
No. Everybody
knew that it was like, it's a 50-50 shot. It's like, chances are Rochester weather's going to screw us and we're not going to be able to see it. But that's not the point.
No. And also it was a profoundly moving experience. So what Dan and I did endlessly was tell people what a cloudy day eclipse experience would be, to frame that for them, how it would be profoundly dark, how you'd see the glow around the horizon, like all of this. And it worked. In fact, in those days after the eclipse, people that I didn't know, but who recognized me from TV or whatever, would come up to me. It's like, tell me their eclipse story. And I'd hear my own words coming back to me, which felt great. And then I was giving a talk at the Willow Domestic Violence Center. I was giving a keynote talk late last year. And somebody came up to me and said, until you reminded me, I had forgotten it was cloudy that day because the experience was just so moving. I was like, yes. Score, absolutely.
Yeah.
But more than that, the bonds have lasted, and people are still working together. People know each other, and they know people to call if something happens. So a great example of that was actually from Perryville, Missouri. So Trish Ertzfeld from Perryville, this one-woman tiny town tourism director, she did such an effective job organizing for the 2024 eclipse. So many people, everybody knew each other. Everybody had smooth experience working together. And then in January of 2025, like 2 weeks before the deadline for the Eclipse Effect book was to be, the manuscript needed to go in, Perryville had a devastating ice storm. But Trish's network that she had pulled together for those years in advance of the eclipse sprang into action because everybody knew each other in government, in transportation, in emergency services, in tourism, in arts and culture, in education. And they instantly pulled together and managed that. That was an instance of a catalyst that was a bad one, not a good one, like an eclipse, but they were already together. So that network, the effect, that was a dramatic, example of the lasting effect of pulling together a community. And you can do it if you tune your radar for those kind of catalysts. You'll see them everywhere. That's what actually Jamie and I are calling the Eclipse Effect. We've coined that phrase. We'd love for lots of people to use that phrase. And it's the recognition of some external catalyst. It could be a gift from the universe, like an eclipse, or it could be a disaster, or it could be a man-made good thing or bad thing, like the Olympics coming to your town, or somebody suddenly pulling your funding on the federal level and now you have to manage. But something with its own energy causes a group of people to recognize that they can leverage, or they should leverage the energy of that to pull people together. And if you then manage that properly, then that network can last beyond the original catalyst. And that's what we're calling the eclipse effect. It happens all over, but most visibly with this eclipse, and you can make it happen.
And I thought this was going to be a book about the eclipse. I thought this was going to be a nerdy, not that that's a bad thing, but, a scientifically, although there probably is a lot of science in here.
There's very little science in there. It's storytelling.
Human science.
Yes. Right. So,
right?
So it's more
not astronomy,
no.
but yeah.
No, yeah, it's not a science book. It's a storybook about people who made things happen. All of them ordinary people.
I mean, the subtext here.
How to seize extraordinary moments to build strong communities.
Of course, you know it by heart.
Yes, I do.
Wrote it. But that's the whole idea of this book is phenomenal.
Thank you.
It really is.
And the stories are great. You'll read about Angela Speck, who is this indomitable British-born astronomer she's covered with these wonderful astronomy tattoos, and she's the chair of the Department of Physics and Astronomy at UT San Antonio, and she took on a fight with the Alamo over the eclipse. Yes, and she is fearless, Angela, and she knows how to fight for things that are right, how to and her mission is, to spread science and awareness, but the Alamo was billing itself as the perfect place to experience the eclipse. But the Alamo itself, which is near San Antonio, was outside the path of totality. Anybody who mobilized at the Alamo would not have experienced totality. And it's either you're in the path of totality or you're not. And so the Alamo was a terrible place to experience the eclipse because 99% coverage is not the same as 100%. So Angela took on the Alamo.
It was the Alamo that was out there trying to get people to come to them.
Yeah. And that was wrong.
What did you, not to like, magnify any bad things, but other communities that you experienced throughout the country. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there were some really good ones and some really bad ones, or at least not so good. What were your favorite ones?
So my favorite, everybody who organized had varying degrees of success in bringing communities together behind them. Sometimes they had to be one-person shows, right? As one person, like, I was really fortunate here in Rochester just because, like, instantly the RMSC understood, Visit Rochester, like key people really got it. I didn't have to I did not have a heavy lift in getting people on board. Lots of other places did have a heavy lift. So one story, so the tiny city of Vincennes, Indiana, which had some of the longest totality of any city. They hired Sarah Wolf, who was an artist who had never had community organizing experience, to be the eclipse coordinator for their city. And they gave her sort of carte blanche to do it. And she was phenomenal. And as soon as I found her, I got her involved nationally. And it helped her too, because she really was a one-woman force who had to mostly do it on her own. And she did it with music and humor a lot, and she had a great social media presence. But then she had some trouble because, so their theme was Dark Side of the Wabash, and the Wabash is the river that runs through Vincennes. And in southern Indiana, you got lots of different sorts of people, some of whom decided that the dark side was going to be devil worship. And so the radical religious folks decided to take this on as a cause and cause her all kinds of trouble. And it was really stressful on her. But then it sort of, so much was sort of focused in her. And so she did it. She made, and they had a gloriously sunny day in Vincennes and lots of people came.
So are eclipses caused by the devil? Is that what I'm supposed to?
No, they said that
just the term dark side.
But seriously, they had, they said that maybe we were opening up a portal to hell by doing the celebration of this. Yeah.
Of course we are.
And actually,
hello,
Sarah's husband is a chaplain, a hospital chaplain, right? And so right? And she's has a foot in the religious community and but not in that part. It was very stressful.
Wow.
And then they had a great sunny day. No trouble at all. Nobody was actually caused trouble that day. But afterwards, when you've put so much effort and everything comes down to a few minutes,
3 minutes, yeah,
right?
Or however long.
The effect after for Sarah was emblematic of what a lot of people went through, which is the come down was just sort of astonishing.
Yeah.
And she says for 2 weeks she rage cleaned her garage and her house just because she had all of this weird pent up energy and that happened with lots of people, right? There was this, and so in a way, in part, this book is a gift to those people too, because then just getting to see your story in the context of other people who sort of share some of those moments and had various different experiences. We had to kind of crash in Rochester after, because we did have clouds and we had envy of most of the rest of the country, which had sun. So many people on the national level said, if anybody deserved sun, it was Rochester.
Right.
But that isn't how life is.
Nope.
And I wanted this tangible reminder, so that graph, but also these stories, to all these people here who really did it. That's a moment that is real and is forever. So looking at it that way is super important for that. And that'll happen with any effort that comes to a head like that, not just eclipses.
Are you using these principles for something coming up in the future that you're planning?
Not at present.
Not at present. Not that you know of yet, but something will pop up as always.
Stuff happened small. Last year was the bicentennial of the bicentennial, right? Of the Erie Canal, right? 200.
200.
Yep. And this year is the semi-sesquicentennial, right, of the country.
250.
250th. But there's not the same will to really organize around that. I think things are in too much flux.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you have a birthday, you have the country has a birthday every year.
It does.
And so this is the 250th one.
Yep.
You don't have an eclipse all the time. And that is so unique. And also,
true.
It's so much, the part about the eclipse that I really gravitated to, I guess you could say, is the idea of this universal kind of idea that it's so much bigger. We're so small compared to this is a humongous event that's happening in the heavens. And it just kind of exemplifies how tiny and insignificant we can be in the grand scheme of the universe, but how we're all connected by that same energy and by the same building blocks of the universe.
It's true. I had that when I was in Missouri for the Sunny Day eclipse in 2017. I had this weird experience, not of insignificance as I had expected, but of significance. I was aware of only 4 bodies in the universe. Ella was standing over there 15 feet away or something. I was unaware of her. I was only aware of the sun, the moon, the earth, and me. And I was one of those bodies. I mean, if you think about it, everybody is the center of their own universe. Mm-hmm. You have a precious few moments on Earth to do stuff and have an effect if you can, and you use it as you can. But you're always the center of your own universe, and you by acknowledging that you can have an impact on the world, that helps propel you to do that.
you teaching your kids to eclipse you in their lives?
They are eclipsing me in many, many ways, right? One of the things, as you've recognized as an entrepreneur, I fail all day, every day. Oh. Because you're trying to add value to the world, and you're always falling short of, or maybe aiming in one way and you never get there.
And not everything you try works.
Almost nothing you try works.
It's true.
It's really true. And so, I mean, you look successful on the outside because people see those successful things.
Right.
And it's tempting to get hung up on the not succeeding. It is honestly one of the reasons we homeschooled the girls, because I hate grades. When I was a student, I was great. I got great grades, and getting great grades was the only thing that gave me self-esteem. And afterwards, I realized what a crock that is. Yeah. That is not
too much power.
That doesn't exactly. It doesn't determine your success in life, how somebody else grades you. And I didn't want my kids to fall into that trap. I wanted them to push until they failed all the time, because that's what life is. And if you don't get hung up on that, if you can go through life without somebody giving you 100% or 92% or an 83%, I wanted them out of that thing. And it worked, just so you know. It doesn't work for everybody. But that was, they are, people in their 20s who are creating value in the world, and I'm, working toward happiness.
Not everybody, I think, is qualified to homeschool human beings.
No. It happened to work for us, right? I felt really, it was me who felt really strongly about that. I knew what kind of damage it did to me. And my kids learned at various rates. They had various gifts, and I was uninterested in, like Ella was really slow to read. And I was really uninterested in her being labeled the slow reader, because you get that as an identity. It took me a long time to step outside of the stupid identity I got from school. So I just didn't want that. But, I look normal, but, those who know me know.
No, but it's a great way to raise your kids, to raise them outside of that construct that so many other people are, that we have to be in.
Of course, when they went to college, they fell right into it. I was like, I've raised you for 18 years, and here you are caring about the grade you get instead of the, what you know. But they make you have to care about that. I know, but I tried to, even David, who was the math professor at RIT, was telling him, don't worry about the grade. Nobody in the future will care about your grade. They care about what you know, what you can do, right. That you are, working to make an effect in the world, that you take ownership of it. That's the thing, and have discipline to keep at it. And so the college teaches you that, and that was good. School teaches you that. That part's good.
It can,
if it does it right, it can teach you that, right? So, AI is upending everything. So the people who can do things and are determined to, learn through their whole lives will thrive in this, and it'll be really tough if you can't do that. I'm hoping that the book is inspiring. It's fun read. Okay. It's just a fun read of the stories. You'll get it. The principles don't hit you over the head, I don't think, but they're actually there, and the strategies are there. The strategies for running meetings, strategies for coping with disappointment, strategies for coping with people who disagree with your perspective, but you're in this ecosystem with them. What do you do with them? Right? Like, how do you keep pulling people together? And
those are all stories. Those are all wow.
Yep.
I had no idea the value of this book.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah,
that's this just all part of the crazy, way I try to focus on putting value in the world.
And this is available on Amazon?
It's available on every platform. If you go to theeclipseeffect.com, you can get a link to all your different favorite online platforms to order.
Perfect. And if you need a copy, reach out to me. I'll make sure you get one. I don't know how, but we'll figure it out. Deborah Ross, thank you so much for coming in again and blathering, which you did a lot of.
Yes, I did. You click on me and I talk.
But that's what you're here. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're here for. Yep. I learned so much about this whole event that I had no idea even occurred, which was more than I expected to learn today, honestly.
Good.
But it was really, really cool. And I recommend that everybody get the Eclipse Effect and follow Deb on the socials, kidsoutandabout.com. And if you ever run into her at Wegmans, ask her all about the book.
Yep.
Please do. You won't be disappointed.
No.
Thanks so much. See ya.
Bye.
.com